Okay, why am I up at stupid o'clock in the morning on a Sunday? I'm going to Clunes, Victoria for the annual book fair. I'm looking for movie books. I'm looking for interesting old books of all kinds. So I'd better get some coffee in me and I'd better get going. Well, I've reached Clunes. The drive was pretty good, as you might see from the B-roll, but it's a little bit foggy around here at the moment, and I'm about a half an hour early, so we'll see how it goes. It's cold here. It's really fucking cold here. Nonetheless, I've got here early. I can look at all the books before everybody else does, and that's what I'm about to do. I've had my coffee, I've had a toilet break. It's time to look at some books. Okay, this one's definitely in my price range. Don't think so. There's my first movie book score. I'm definitely picking that one up. Found a book about a family member. My mum is a Jenkins, and she's kind of slightly distantly related to Richard Burton, so all good. Don't think I'll buy it though. None of these seem to be in any particular order, which is part of the fun of it. If they tell you where everything is, there's not the fun of the hunt, of looking around and just serendipitously finding good books of which you were previously unaware. Just to give you an idea how close I am, here's the car. And just down there, he said zooming, is the entrance. So I've done pretty well. Usually we are way up the hill there, but not this time. Well, that's the score so far. I spent about $60 and it's only 9:10 in the morning. I don't know whether I should risk going any further than this, but I will. I've only just touched the edges of Clunes, and so I probably should have another coffee, pace myself, and see what else the day gives me. Okay, I finished with Clunes. I got out of there under $100, which is good, but I really enjoyed it. I did see a couple of friends as well, so hi to Kirsten and Jason. Spotted them as I was sitting in the park, so that was kind of nice. Heading over to Dalesford now. I'm going to get you some B-roll footage of the drive between Clunes and Dalesford, because it's a really nice curvy driving road. Shout out to my friend Glenn, who gave me the heads up on this road, because it's a really nice driving one. I'll stop for a coffee at Dalesford and then probably head home. I should be home a little bit after lunch at the latest. The first of the books that I got at the Clunes Book Fair. It's Radio Fun Annual for 1953, before television came out in Australia. I think it may be a UK book, but I'm not entirely sure. But it's got these weird little bits and pieces of cartoons and comic strips based on the antics of various comedians who appeared on the radio. It's kind of fun to see because it's very much old school comedy stuff, very at time that's not focusing well, kind of racist at times. There's some stuff regarding Indigenous Americans on a page like this one where yeah, it's really not politically correct or even really fair, but there's lots of different stories in there. A lot of it's very much from the viewpoint of white British people, which is kind of interesting. So I picked that up. There's a Jimmy Durante comic strip for some reason, which is in there. As you can see, the book's not in great condition, but nonetheless, I kind of collect this sort of thing, and it's nice to see what the media of the past was like. So that's the first one. I'll just move that aside. Second one, you might not be able to read that, but I'll show you the spine there. The Great Movie Stars, the International Years. Really big, heavy paperback. It's actually got an inscription on it. I'll see if I can zoom in on the inscription. It says, "Dearest Jeff, hope you enjoy this. All my love, Daphne." Which is kind of cool, getting that kind of inscription on these books. I like that sort of thing. Let's see. So basically it's a history of movie stars from past eras. Not necessarily that old, because there's Steve McQueen in the Sand Pebbles over there, and whoops. And so it dates back probably to the 1960s, but this is the sort of movie reference book I like, because there's a lot of information in these books which aren't necessarily in, say, IMDb or Wikipedia. And so when I'm doing podcasts, I really like to go to other sources in order to find out the information that I need to do the podcast. So I've got that. This is non-movie related. I've got a book of 4 novellas from Ursula K. Le Guin. $5 again, good deal. I enjoy reading them, and they're ones I haven't read before, so I've picked that up. Movies by Richard Schickel. He did a really good book in the 1960s about Walt Disney, which wasn't kind, let's say, but Schickel was a great movie critic, and I look forward to seeing what I can find out about various movies from this one. I may well bookmark it with little post-it notes for movies that I want to do for future podcasts. So it's a good deal for $5. Then we go to A Vulgar Pleasure. What a Carry-On, the official story of the Carry-On film series. Got picked up that one. There's a lot of pictures in this one, of course, and I'm not sure how many of the Carry-On movies I'm going to be covering in a future podcast, but it's always nice to have that kind of reference book about very, very popular and very kind of working class media from the 1960s and 50s. Picked up a copy of this because I didn't have a copy of it. It's the movie-based edition of Ben-Hur with a picture of Charlton Heston on the front. I'm not sure I'll read it. Apparently it's very stiff to read, but I may well go and read it. Ben-Hur, great movie. I always wanted Masala to win the chariot race rather than Judah Ben-Hur, because Masala for me was always a much more interesting character. Funny side note, I once met Charlton Heston at a book signing, and his toupee was crazily obvious, but then I did get the opportunity to shake the hand that parted the Red Sea, so that was kind of cool. So I got that. Just a bit of Steinbeck of Mice and Men in Cannery Row. I like reading a bit of John Steinbeck's work. Beautifully written, lyrical stuff. If you can get a copy of his non-fiction book, Travels with Charlie, that's kind of cool too. It's probably my favourite Steinbeck. Next up, De Niro, a biography by John Baxter. John Baxter, good film writer. I met him once as well, oddly enough. He used to be a science fiction fan back in the day and turned up at a convention. I got one of his books signed. He's currently living in Paris and having a wonderful time over there. Half his luck. But yeah, he also did a biography of George Lucas about 20 years ago, which really did open my eyes to the nature of Lucas's work and to all of the gossip involved in the Star Wars movies. Finally, and I'll zoom out for this, I got 7 different annual editions of John Will's Screen World, which cover movies that were released in a particular year. This one's 1966. It has a lot of information about the movies, some nice pictures based on them, and some movies that really don't pop up very much on people's radar, so I like getting those. So they've got the 1966, the 1973, 1970, 1967, 1972, 69, oops, they're all slipping away, and 1974. I picked up a couple of these a couple of years ago at the Clunes Book Fair as well, so I went down and got the rest of them this time around. Fortunately, nobody bought the other ones. So that was my score from Clunes, and thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you'd like to like and subscribe, and I'll be back soon with more content. Thanks a lot.